And we're back, Stripe Show Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. I apologize if I sound a little different today. I'm just getting over a little virus cold. Got it from one of my kids. You know how that works. They go to school and they get the little virus and they bring it home, and then it just runs right through the house. But feeling better. And a couple weeks left here in February. We're filming this on a Monday. We'll launch the Stripe Show on a Wednesday. Of course, Stripe Show Podcast brought to you by Access Golf. And we are proud to be partnering with them and one of their guys that they've worked with for a long time, Access Golf. Nico Echeverria is a student to our guest here this week on the Stripe Show Podcast. We've been working on this for a while and excited to have this guy on. You know him on Instagram as Golf Better Tucson, but he does have a real name, and we're going to bring that to the surface today. His name is Derek Deminsky. It's his day off, and he's going to spend a little time with us here on the podcast. We appreciate it. Coming to us from Tucson. Derek, how you doing, man?
I'm great, Travis. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, congratulations on all your success. I remember the last time I saw you, I think it was like 4 years ago at Hilton
Shriners.
At the Shriners, and you were playing.
I qualified. It was so awesome. I qualified. It was kind of found something on like the third hole and I ran with it.
Wow.
And then I had to play the PGA Tour, probably playing the worst golf of my life, but it was a great experience. I had such a blast. It was great meeting you, and it was a very pretty friendly course to play if you didn't have maybe your A game, we'll say.
Yeah. Well, you've been teaching a long time, but you've really, the last 5-6 years, seems like things are really good. I know you work with a lot of people there in Tucson one-on-one. You work with a lot of the amateur golfers, but you've built yourself a nice resume as well on the PGA Tour. And I know you travel a lot. You're going to be coming through here in Ponte Vedra in just a few weeks.
Yeah. It's been a unique run. I enjoy teaching everyone. So if you follow my social media, you'll see I'll be teaching on tour, and then I'm teaching new players, kids, everyone who wants to be taught. I love this game, and I'm very thankful to be able to do what I do.
Yeah, I think you've got great perspective. I've followed you for a long time and have known you, and I think you have good perspective, good balance of not only what you're seeing out there on the PGA Tour. For example, we're going to get into a lot of your students. Nico's one of them. We've got some Eric Van Rooyen, which I'm excited about. We've got some of his stuff. We've got some Pearson Coody, talented young player, really starting to play some good golf. We've got some of his stuff, and all this stuff pertains to short game, which is really your expertise, where you've really kind of put yourself in that lane and has done a great job with that. And so we're going to get into a lot of those discussions and get into a lot of the things that have really, have become front and center, mainstream discussion points, which I think there's been a lot of positive to it. There's definitely been some confrontation to it, even some, some real anger. And so, it is what it is. But I think that at the root and the discussion points of leading edge versus bounce, of low point control, of arc depth, of attack angle, vertical swing plane. All these things that I think get, kind of mulled around. And I think for you and I, it makes sense. We like it. There's balance there. Like anything else, there's not one way to do it. But I do think the amateur sometimes can get a little bit lost in some of that discussion. And so the hope when we get to it is to bring a little more clarity to that. But before we get to it, you have to look back on Sunday. Really a great day for golf, I think. Pebble Beach front and center always is a great thing. Colin Morikawa kind of works himself out of a slump, but it really wasn't the main point. And whether you like live golf or not, as the casual fan, live golf with front and center over in Australia. Anthony Kim, unbelievable story, comes back and gets the victory.
Yeah, I've been a AK fan for a long time. Just, elite Ryder Cupper, very exciting. Loved his golf swing. And then, his story with potentially some of the insurance stuff, and you don't know if he's going to come back. And then Liv gave him an opportunity, and he didn't really play well. But then you knew if you've been following him, he's been playing quite a bit better. He's, working with Matt Killen, who I know is a great coach, and he's had some good results, in the live promotions when he got his, he earned his card back. But even on some of the Asian Tour stuff, you could start to see his game was trending.
Yeah.
And then in a really unique position at the course looked awesome. The atmosphere, yeah, exactly. You can think about live whatever you want. Atmosphere was awesome. And the round he played, which I got to watch, I stayed up and just was going crazy because I'm just a golf fan. 9 birdies, no bogeys, making all these putts down the stretch was an unreal comeback story and a testament to the human will. I mean, it was really incredible. I'm very happy for Anthony, and what an inspiring story.
I think it's a story that live golf needs. I'm not a huge live golf fan. I mean, I'm a golf fan, but I also, living in Ponte Vedra, have done a lot of work with the tour over the years, but can objectively look at a competitor and live golf. I've never really liked the roots of it, the authenticity of it, but I think this Anthony Kim story is a feather in their cap. I think it's one of the more authentic and real stories that they maybe have, it's probably that they've ever had. It doesn't feel purchased. It doesn't feel forced. It feels real, authentic, hard work from a guy that wanted it. And he put the time in, he came back, and you could see the passion. I mean, that real energy and passion, it meant something to him. And that's what it's all about. I think as a fan, for me, that's, I can sign up for that. And follow that. So it's a cool story. Great day for golf. Anthony Kim, and then Colin Morikawa. I mean, just he starts to make some putts and look out, because the guy we know is an elite iron player, and that's a place that I think kind of leans into that in Pebble Beach. The other thing that stood out to me, Derek, and then we'll move on, is Pebble Beach felt completely overwhelmed with the distance. It just felt, and I know distance has just continued to move and has taken over some courses, but I just sat there, and I know it was a little 18 played a little downwind, and I get it, and some of these others, but it just felt completely overpowered. The par fives are just nothing anymore to the distances that these guys are hitting. And in some ways, I'm just like, gosh, man, I think we've went too far.
Yeah, I would say the whole distance debate should be genuinely looked at. I don't have any skin in the game, but it is, you'd love to maybe see a course play a certain way, and when it's not, again, because it was windy and it wasn't really that easy, and it's still they're playing well. So depending on what the product they want, to look like, I'm okay with players just playing well. And again, they're all playing the same course. I totally understand that. But from maybe a golf purist or perspective like that, I can definitely understand those concerns.
Mm-hmm. Well, another debate topic has been the short game, and I want to transition to your world. It's been really interesting to watch, and so much of it, and we're going to get into a lot of things, but I want to start with this. So much of it stems around using the leading edge on a wedge, right, versus not. And for an amateur player, and when behind me right now is True Spec, and they do all my fittings, and one of the main components when you get to wedge play is bounce and the relief that it gives you and those types of things. So when you look at short game players, and let's just start with on the PGA Tour, guys that maybe gravitate towards the leading edge and getting the leading edge on the ground with shaft lean versus those that maybe don't as much, are both sides, as far as like a stock shot, as far as a shot they lean into, are both shots pretty well represented?
Yeah, I would quantify them as just a ball first strike, or I need to hit the ball clean, just like a golf swing. I would prefer to hit the ball cleanly, and then I call it just using the ground to help yourself out. Now, where I see some players struggle is when when they kind of have a blend of both, and they're kind of trying to hit the ball, and they're kind of trying to use the bounce, and they're kind of trying to do this, and they're kind of trying to do that. So I see as players better understand ball first and ground first shots as a little bit different skills. I see them improve, and things improve even at an amateur level. But absolutely, I've got guys that reach out to me because they want to improve their ball first shot. I've got guys and players that reach out to me because they want to be able to use the ground better and in which situations they can. So absolutely, both are important to short gaming at a tour level. And then really, I see amateurs improve as they better understand those skills as well.
That's interesting. They kind of get caught in between.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I see it really at a tour level where it's a blend of both, but they don't really have a clear picture of what they're trying to do, and maybe get some inconsistencies within what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Let's start with this one, because this is one of your students, Pearson Cootie, who's been on the podcast back when he was
Oh, nice.
in college. A great kid. And I know
The best.
and I know an extremely hard worker. He worked with you in short game. He works with Chris Como in the full swing. But here's let's just maybe kind of call this maybe a semi-stock low to medium, type of pitch, right? And so for those that are watching, what are they looking at here? What are some things that stand out that are good to pass along?
Yeah, if you can, just stop them at impact.
Well,
if you're able, if you can. Okay. So what we would see is again for ball first. Things would be looking for here is if you did see at impact, there would be some amount of shaft lean. Yeah, you can see him a little bit slower there. If we do make a divot after the ball in certain terrain situations, that shot there is a little bit uphill, so that can happen. If it was grainy, that might happen. If you hit this shot at the British Open where it's firm, you're not going to see interaction. So that's also where you'll see potentially some coaches or even TV announcers say, oh, he really picked that clean, and it's really terrain where you almost cannot make a divot. So we would call this more of a ball first strike, trying to capture it cleanly, the same way that if you were trying to hit a ball 7-iron out of a fairway bunker, a 7-iron off of the fairway, I'm trying to hit the ball cleanly, and that's what I would quantify as just a ball first shot.
So at address, he's got the ball maybe a little back of center.
Yeah.
He's got the shaft pointing. Do you like left pocket? Just certainly not past the left hip.
Sure. I mean, depending on the player and depending what they need to feel, that's a very reasonable starting point for sure.
The weight, how much roughly forward?
So it's a little bit player dependent. Some players like to start and stay a little bit more lead side. Some players like to move into their lead side. So I'll leave that a little bit up to the player. Something I somewhat pride myself on is I'm able to give players options based on what their DNA is, what they do in their golf swings, what they like to do. So you can be flexible, just as you mentioned. You'll see a lot of great short gamers different ways, and it's okay to have a style that fits what you do and what you need. So, but generally the weights, things we wouldn't like to see. We wouldn't like to see necessarily too much tilting back, weight going to the right side, shaft being overly released would be things that would help, have our low spot maybe be further back than we would like.
So as far as weight, like a couple things from my experience, it I think speaks to maybe some of the variety here. The stock would be, hey, start your weight forward, keep it there, right? So it's like starts forward, stays there, pretty stagnant. Weight's not moving a lot. Another option would be, hey, start maybe with a little less weight left, but then feel yourself kind of move left, maybe as early as you're going back, right? Where you kind of feel that little weight moving forward, and now you got a little momentum coming through.
Exactly. This is perfect time to demonstrate. I think kind of me and you, as when we grew up, it was more, hey, start left, stay left, and that can absolutely be a good fit for some players. But what you also might see is as players have a lot of weight here, they'll almost have some movement back. So really a good general drill for players if they're trying to hit it cleanly would be to have, just like you mentioned, if I move a little bit of weight forward, and this is where you'll see players kind of pressure a little that foot, that's why it kind of dances. If I somewhat move forward and feel like I'm just moving forward almost the whole time, and it's a little bit dependent on what a player needs. But for me to have movement towards the target will generally help, depending on other things, the low spot be more forward. So that's a basic drill that the viewers or listeners, if they're really struggling with contact, can try. The reason we wouldn't do that with a 7-iron necessarily is it would be, such a low shot, and that can be a great feel for a punch shot or anything like that. But when we have a wedge that has a lot of loft, we need to secure contact as our first piece. Consistent contact will then lead to distance control and all the other things that players want.
The other thing about people starting left, staying left, like when we were young, is I think one of the things that happened there also, and it works for some, right? I'm not saying it's wrong, but it works for some.
Yeah,
but
yeah, totally. Like that's kind of what I'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens that I see is they'll start too far left, heavy left, and then they almost feel inclined to back up a little bit, right? And then the other thing is as they're pushing their weight left, it's almost like they're pushing it more with the pelvis, and then the spine counters with right bend, right?
So a great thing that any viewer, or even I have two players do this, if you get a face-on mirror, just turn on your camera where you can see yourself. I'll often see like, okay, Derek, you want my weight left? And they'll just push everything and tilt. And like you mentioned, they'll bump some things that might actually be counter to what we would want. So that's where, even in putting, you'll see some guys and some players where if you slide your left hand or grip it cross-handed, we can kind of get out some of these trail side tilts that, we wouldn't mind for launching a driver high. I'd call that a launching tilt, but I would almost get into a lead side tilt to some extent. And then from there, that can help even give potential to elevate the club up properly. And then again, if we have some movement without having sliding or tilting or pushing certain things, like you've mentioned, that tilt other parts of our body.
Yeah, and sometimes the correction is, and I'm making a big deal of this because I see it a lot in the studio here and even at Deerwood Country Club where I teach, is they have to feel like their pelvis is almost sitting a little to the right, like their
sure,
pelvis
it's an awkward. It's an awkward,
right.
It's an awkward feel. Golfers in general, right? You can just kind of tell a golfer when you see them. We just kind of always kind of sit this way. We have a little trail side bend. It's right hand's a little bit lower than the left in what probably comes to a lot of our lives, and it is an awkward feeling.
It is, but it's amazing now, and I want to go to the other view. A lot of this it influences a lot of things, but certainly the low point in getting the pelvis situated right, getting the spine in a little more neutral or to what feels like left bend, with the weight a little left or moving left. Those things are critical in getting that low point far enough ahead where we catch the ball first. Now, I want to go to this other view. I just, I know there's a lot of different types of shots, but look, for those that are listening, I mean, if you can take the club back like this around the greens, like you have a really good chance to hit some quality short game shots. What's standing out here from target line?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if you just, and I tell people, just go YouTube down the line videos of great short gamers, and what you'll generally see is they live on top of or just on shaft plane. Some are a little bit below, and again, that's where we talk DNA. So you see guys like a Cam Smith and a Pat Reed who generally also play draws. So if someone plays draws, like we can accommodate that if they want that feel. I've got a few players, and again, as you give them options, I have a few even tour players who were like, hey, I really like this draw feeling. And we would quantify it. I like measuring when needed, but when in all parts of golf, if you're ever doing something great, I love it measured then, because it usually gives you a benchmark or a baseline that you can, you know, if you stray away from, you can just return to.
And when you measure, are you using like TrackMan, or are you using
So I've got a quad. I've got a quad.
You have a quad. Okay, yeah.
I don't have TrackMan.
So you're getting the numbers from quad when things are good.
I love measuring anything anyone does or getting video. I tell everyone, because if I do get a player, and I had this last year with Aaron Wise, is he had awesome videos of when he chipped it great, and he's just like, hey, here, give me back to this, and then he sent me where he's currently at, and it's like, oh, fantastic. So if any player, or when they come to me, the first thing I'll ask the tour players is, hey, have you ever been a great short gamer? And then do you have video of that? Because that's probably a lot of your DNA and what you should do. And I'll oftentimes see players almost maybe even coached out of that, or are told that, hey, that's not going to work. And it has worked. Yeah. So I do like getting video anytime you're putting well, chipping well, bunkering well, swinging it well, especially for a lot of, amateurs who play at maybe a pretty high level and have some unique movements. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to help them better understand and get back to maybe a place that they've played well from in the past. When players are struggling, most players that I see, maybe you see, they probably have played maybe to the level they've wanted at some point. And of course, a 20 handicap, if he was maybe a 12 or something like that, I just want to see, hey, what's maybe the missing piece more than, a swing overhaul or anything like that.
It's this back to this target line. Then I want to move on to EVR, another one of your students who I just love.
I love the guy.
Yeah. And, there's for the amateur golfer, right? I mean, one of the most common issues is that club head gets behind the hands early, and it's just so detrimental in short game. I'm not saying you can't hit good short game shots. I'm just saying that if you work the club head a little bit more out in front of you, and if you can just kind of imagine the relationship of the shaft really just working up the line of the left forearm. I mean, it's just kind of staying in line with the left forearm. And for so many, that feels a little more outside. It feels a little more up. It feels a little more up. Yeah. And just getting that organized to this halfway spot with some of the weight that we talked about in the spine earlier. I mean, you have checked some boxes, people, in catching the ball first. Yeah.
And if players struggle with that, and I'm also big on skills, like you mentioned, if I needed to hit, like a hook chip, like I have that ability. So for most players, or even tour guys, I'd say, hey, just what would a fade feel like? And I'll equate it to like a tennis racket. Hey, we know that this is your tendency, and that's okay. But let's hit a few maybe with this slice picture and this slice feeling. And a lot of times that can, without having to get too technical, bring a lot of the technical pieces we would want into what they do. So when I have a player, and like even my stock motion, it's kind of like a wide baby draw for when I'm trying to hit very consistent flights and shots that don't overspin. And then we can say, hey, okay, we just know that you chip best when your chips feel like a small baby fade.
Let me ask you this. You were at Phoenix, right? TBC Scottsdale?
Yeah.
And Pearson was there. That was some of his stuff. There were a lot of chunks. I mean, this is Nico, right?
This is a nasty lie.
Yeah, look at that.
And this is where the challenge lied, because in my opinion, it wasn't anything that you don't see at 49er where I teach or something. We see this all the time. It was the overseed was, maybe like a little bearish at spots where it'd go to the bottom, and then it was a little bit wet. I mean, it wasn't grainy by any means. And then a lot of times at TBC Scottsdale, you have to get some amount of elevation. So it just required a very clear intention and strike. And like you saw with Jordan, a great short gamer, with Scotty, a great short gamer, and some other players, there's also just times you hit a bad shot.
Yeah.
It's also just times where it's like you just hit a bad shot. And I think a lot of players might have putted Scotty's shot that he, miscontacted that first day. But he's such a great chipper that it's just a bad shot. Yeah, same thing. So you just have to be clear in intent and with what you're trying to do, and it's also okay to know that, and some players, I think there was some, speak on social media like, oh, see, this style doesn't work or this style
Yeah.
doesn't do this, and I think everyone agrees sometimes you just hit a bad shot.
Yeah, I think we're the.
Unless,
I think
unless
we're
it's
the.
a trend, we'll fix it. We'll fix a trend,
Yeah.
but you also have to know that sometimes you just misapply the tool, and you're a human, and this game is crazy.
I think that the struggle is in the pushback, at least from not so much pushback, but just the struggle sometimes is when you're hearing steeper, right? And steeper attack angle and VSP and all these things, and it's driving the low point more forward. And I think, instinctively and intuitively, it makes total sense. But then you see the steepest and Scotty and others, and they hit it fat, right? And so, like, getting steeper and all that isn't the entail of completely eliminating, right, the fat shot.
Yeah, and that's where I think the people, those people would say, well, steep means low spot's more forward, and they hit behind it, therefore they weren't steep, and then that's its own thing. But I think we would both agree that the path and plane of those swings by no means were like way shallow and underneath or
No, not at all.
No. So it's also just okay to know that sometimes you hit bad shots and there's not necessarily, unless you're a machine, a technique that will just guarantee everything works out every time. There's we want players to chip it better and have a technique that makes sense for what they want to do.
Right.
And then there's just times you're going to get a sketchy line and it just might be tricky to get the contact you want. And that's just golf.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And because you're right, those were not, at least in my eye, was not inside and under. I mean, those were up and down and definitely on the steeper side. And then you see the chunk. And so it's like, oh, and so it's, there's more components, right, to continue to discuss. And sometimes the margin is so thin on a situation like this. And when I look at Nico, what I see, and I want to ask you this question, is I see the shaft once again working up, more the line of the lead form. It's most definitely more on the vertical side. You can see the leading edge getting into the ground. The difference here, and I want you to talk about this, is there's definitely a little more abrupt wrist hinge, more radial in the lead wrist, going up versus say what we would see here with Pearson, right? It looks like the lead wrist is maybe a little more passive. So the lead wrist and how much you're asking for the wrist cock. Talk about that and maybe when it's more passive versus when it's more abrupt and what a player can expect there.
Yeah, that's a great question. And then a lot of times when I see players, I'm like, let me see your swing. What wrist movements do you like? What are you used to? What do you prefer? What works? What has worked well for you in the past? Are you a minimal set player? Do you load wrist maximally? Because then we can just tailor that to your short game and with what's comfortable. So some players feel better in short game better with lesser wrists, and some players feel better and more comfortable with more wrists, whether it's to get more club load, to have the handle track less far, just some other things that I've measured that can be helpful for contact. So like you've mentioned, it's a little bit of what's true to a player's DNA. And I'm more than okay as well. And again, the viewers, if they see this, I would ask them, hey, if we're trying to hit a chip, go ahead and hit one and I would say more in the backswing. If I'm trying to hit a ball first chip, hey, hit one as risky as you can. And try to return shaft lean. Hey, hit one as wide as you can and try to return shaft lean. Like, it's okay. And I think it's what's maybe not taught as much, and I would recommend is, hey, try a bunch of stuff and see what you like. It's also important to know what you don't like.
Yeah.
Where, again, it's not one size fits all, and I don't have a method or anything like that. I just need players to chip better statistically. Like that's what we got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be in a method that's not their best fit. So it's okay to try some stuff and again see what. Hey, I actually like this feeling.
Yeah.
I've got like a 9-shot drill on YouTube where it's like 3 different wrists, 3 different shot shapes. And especially when I do some online stuff, I'll have players try them. They'll be like, "Hey, I can chip it great with this, wide draw feeling." Or, "Hey, when I use my wrist more, man, my contact's awesome. I didn't know I could do that. I was taught, maybe not to do that." So it's okay to have some self-discovery to see what style may be a better fit for you
Right.
than maybe what you've been told to do.
Yeah. And I think, like, so in this example, you see this more passive lead wrist. There's certainly some radial in there, and the shaft
Sure.
certainly working up the line of the left forearm. But then, all right, now maybe ask the club head, to your point, to travel a little less and give it a little more abrupt wrist hinge. And now the club head's climbing up above the right shoulder. And so what are you learning from those two? Now, regardless, we're still trying to control the low point, right? We're still trying to catch the ball first in the low point, and there's that level of shaft lean in there. But then the other side of it's the arc depth, right? Like, that's the other term here. And it's like, okay, the club head gets into the ground, and sure, the leading edge is going to get into the ground, but then how do you get it out of the ground?
Yeah.
Right. Like, that has to be a discussion in the arc depth of, okay, do I just stick it in the ground and leave it? No, I mean, we probably don't, for an amateur, that's probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
We got to get it out of the ground. So how do you start maybe getting a player to control the arc depth and getting it out?
Yeah, this is a great question. We could talk all day on this. And again, how I've kind of started in short game was I did a lot of spin stuff. I just piqued my interest and went down a spin route. And then yips, I've helped yippers, people flying from everywhere. And those are players that really, what I've found is they have very poor control of arc depth. And this is a great topic. Again, we can speak on this all day, because what's also commonly told now, which is not wrong, if you just watch short gamers, there'll be some that have these down to up movements, and then some players will be told, some players, especially ones that struggle, will often see a lot of downs or late downs. Then they're effectively told that, hey, you got to go up. But in my opinion, when I see a lot of them, they have a lot of these effective ups in their backswing, where if they go more up, they're gonna whiff the golf ball. So it's applying appropriate downs and ups, and that's where handle tracking, handle travel, body movements matter a lot. There's a lot of things I've researched and studied on my own where I've seen players have these effective ups in their backswing, where it's like, hey, they got to get the club. I'll tell them, hey, this is how you're delivering the club low to the ground with your knees. It's a way to do it. It's a terrible way to do it, but that's why you're doing it. They'll feel these things that are uncomfortable or flinchy, and it's usually these late downs somewhat required for them to try to get the club on the ball. It's not a good way to do it. So as far as, and I know this is a piece we'll talk about, but if I have some downward movement, well, now I could start to extend through it. So this would be also just another skill I'd have players I would want to do. I can have this massive down to up movement. I can hit great chips. I choose not to do that, but I can do it. I also could have this up to down movement. I can hit great chips. I obviously, when you start to feel the ranges of the spectrum, you'd be like, oh, geez, I can see where that, I have these downward movements that might not be a good fit. And then you'll see guys that are more level, and that's okay too. So as you can start to feel and understand how the club would move in those three ranges, you can start to better maybe choose one that fits you well. For me, I just stay pretty level. I don't have a lot of down to up. But generally, players that have some up to down are ones that will add to their arc depth, put the club a little deeper into and through the earth, and those are ones that I'll see really struggle and have even yip movements.
Yeah, and I think you go back to the discussion of, okay, now let's say a player gets the lead, shaft forward, leading edge into the ground, and the leading edge gets caught a little bit. And so the default isn't always, well, just less shaft lean, use the bounce, right? It's like, well, let's go a little deeper, talk about arc depth, and talk about, okay, here's the club head's coming in, it's hitting down, it's on the leading edge. And we saw that some of your players, but now we got to start getting the handle to rise and the body to start working out of it,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, some of the things that I see is you talked about extension. There's a little spine extension where, you know, the body's turning, and now you see the body kind of standing back up a little bit to help this little rise in the handle. There's also the idea of the lead wrist, right? I mean, you could, like, the lead wrist can start to take on a little bit more extension. Is that something that you would go to as far as like getting the club head out?
Yeah, it's a great component, and it's dependent on a little bit dependent on if I'm trying to go ball first or ground first, and everyone's got, you know, on that. But yeah, if I was using the ground, and that's where I might, you know, have less shaft lean, have the heel up, have some of what I just call these, you know, better, more noted elements. Well, then I would need a body blended with that. And if I was going to start and have a little bit more shaft lean, again, I don't mind returning at an impact and having some rotation to get this thing out of the ground. I wouldn't maybe necessarily do it with my wrist, but that can be an option for sure. And that's also from a down the line view of generally why, you know, especially if in ball strikers, good ball strikers will usually have a lot of these tendencies where, you know, that's why I generally wouldn't want a low handle. I might want some more ulnar in there to help deliver that thing through the ground. Yeah. So there's multiple ranges, but what I would say to get this club out of the ground is, you know, for me to get this club out of the ground, like when I go down, you know, if you see a player go down, what's effectively happening is if I go down and I stay down, my club's through the earth. Yeah. So I'm almost putting the club through the earth in my backswing, pulling it out of the earth in my through swing. So a lot of that is when a player is trying to do that, they might have this club and they might raise up above the earth, pull the club, retract this handle up above the earth. Well, now this club's not low enough to pull out of the ground. They've got to have some of those movements. So a big piece of, if I want to get this club out of the ground, it better be in a low enough position where I can swing the head out, and moving up makes sense. So you'll see a lot of hot, you know, just social media stuff where it's like, oh, great, short gamers go up. But that's not showing that, hey, it's because they have these effective downs now. Makes sense. So it's kind of saying something that is true, but not giving people maybe the enough info to understand how or why they can or should go up.
Is Phil Mickelson the greatest ever as far as controlling arc depth? I mean, like, isn't Phil Mickelson
this is such a tricky question, right? Because
the poster child, isn't he, of leaning that thing forward? Down,
that's
pulling that, and then like just structure, pulling that thing up out of the ground.
I mean, that's I mean, he's one of the, you know,
I mean, I know he can go the other way too.
Greatest short gamers of all time. I can't really necessarily answer that. I'm not disagreeing by any means.
But he could go the other way too, because then he could let the club head pass the lead wrist too, and use the ground, you know, and use the ground a little
and he's got him, players like Jordan, players like Scotty. Again, I also like you know, different shaft skills. I like a shaft hold skill. I like a shaft release skill. And you, again, if you want to have a elite level short game, you would want to have different skills that way
so
too.
When you say hold,
Phil's a
hold skill, the shaft's kind of staying more in line. Shaft lean.
Yeah. So if we just talk about, like, you know, just you know, I'd call them engine movements. Like I can get the club to pass me this way. I can get the club to pass me this way. No. So if I do have something hold more, I would need something else to move more. Yeah. Right. So if I just swing the club head from the grip end, I don't need body at that point. And for some people, that's okay. I teach the reason I still enjoy teaching a lot of bad golfers and the players I do is I've got to become a better problem solver. So I've got some players, they can't move. So I don't want this handle. I don't need them super wide. I'm okay with, man, if I physically can't move, I can stack them left, have them swing the club head with their wrists, and they're like, oh, this is great. I didn't know I could do that. I was told to take the wrist out. And I'm like, you can't physically move. Like, so that's okay. We can tailor a style to what you physically can and can't do. So I do love the challenge on a daily basis in Tucson is a joy. Yeah, this is a
Look at this
you
whole.
want to talk about a great and he's got both skills, but
Yeah, he does.
Jordan is an absolute delight to
Look at Jordan.
watch.
Look at the shaft lane. Look at that shaft lane. Stay left. Now look at left shoulder kind of working back up.
Yeah, fantastic.
And just, a lot of shaft lane here for sure. I mean, this is, growing up in Texas, you got to get that, right on top of it, him and Scotty.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Another guy that I've had on the pod a couple years ago, Luke Donald. And it was interesting.
Elite short gamer.
Elite, right? But here you go. Look at the club head. Like this is and I know it depends on different types of shots, but I always looked at Luke as like he kind of, he let that club head pass that lead wrist maybe a little sooner than most.
Yeah, and that's a product of that is so like I work with a player now, Dylan Wu, and like Lipsky, like Donald. He's in the Pat Goss camp. I know Pat is an awesome coach. He's always been fantastic to me. So you just have to know like what they've been taught or told, right? And again, I don't know all of it, but they start, the face open, and then they'll return it some amount less closed. So it's, or I'm sorry, less open. So you've got to know kind of what they've been taught or trained or told to do to better understand where they've been. And a lot of players, like with Pearson, and what you'll see is they a lot of what they're doing is maybe something they've been trained or taught to do, and just better understanding that to understand where they're coming from. So like Dylan, and Pat Goss guys and Lipsky, and elite like use of the ground when they need to. They are so good at what I call ground first shots, bunker shots. Luke Donald, I would totally agree. When he was number 1 in the world, I never saw him hit a bunker shot that he had to putt. I mean, it was the best I've seen just on TV. I know Brett Rumford and all these other guys are elite, so they have certain skills, and then they might potentially lack some other shots or some other skills like a shaft holding skill, body rotation, in some of those things.
Yeah. So here's one you sent me. I said, hey, send me one into the grain.
Yeah.
EVR, Eric Van Roy. Look at this one.
Yeah.
So this is into the grain. Look at that leading edge getting on that right, slammed on top of that ball. Into the grain. Talk about that.
I love into the grain because you generally need certain shots and styles. And the question I get all the time is, hey, from when it's wet into the grain, you need to hit it super high and stop it quick. How do you do it? It's like, well, no one's great at that shot. Like, it's the hardest ask. So a lot of times when you're into the grain, number one, you always need to take care of the line, get the contact. And it might require maybe not the most ideal shot for the situation, but you got to hit a shot that you can contact well, whether it is trying to one hop it into a bank with a particular spin, whether it's some amount, maybe even taking medicine at a shot, but you have to do that to guarantee contact. So, into the grain would be ideal for any type of medium lowish shot where I can effectively cover it, trap it, compression on it, ball strike it, ball first it. Because then there are some different elements when we start to go into the grain and we need elevation. There's some different options that players can use to get that, whether it's opening the face more, putting some amount of loft on the shaft, some amount of loft on the club face through the shaft as they maintain low point. So there's some options there, but into the thick grain is that'll expose, some, like we talked about earlier in the show, some of these players that might have a blend of ground first and ball first techniques, and if they accidentally catch behind it, that's where some issues can potentially arise.
So as we spin this forward, I want to go through a few more videos here, and then I'll let you go. One of the things, and I think a lot of teachers listen to this podcast, and it's just fascinating, like the debate, and I think so much of both sides of it is great, right? And like the head, and then everybody knows the name. I mean, Joe Mayo is brilliant. I've talked to him. He's been so helpful in my career, and the leading edge and the VSP and the attack angle steeper and all those things, right? And I think it's been great for the industry.
Short game has never been more exciting than it is now. And I love Joe. I love Parker. I love all the short game coaches I've met have been good to me. Every coach is trying their best. Every coach we're teaching a hard game, but I do enjoy the excitement short game again. It's never been more exciting time to be on the short game side of things. So it's very enjoyable.
Well, we go back to that passion and energy both those guys bring. I mean, Joe's bringing that into it, and he wants people to get better, and I think he makes people better, and I think it's great. He makes players better, but he makes teachers better too.
Yeah, I always love learning.
And there's a level of accountability there, and I think that's important. I think on the other side, like Parker and his techniques, and Parker's been here. He's done stuff in the studio, and I love Parker, and I've learned a lot from him. And maybe not quite as state, maybe a little more ground first, maybe, but both guys understand the other side of it, and that there's a blend. I mean, there is a blend, and we see it in different shots. And so, what shot is more important? I think we could probably debate forever. But where I want to spin it a little bit for the teachers also is, so much of the debate is with the best players in the world, right? And you're looking at their examples. I mean, these are the highest of educated hands.
Yeah.
These are the most experienced as far as hitting millions of shots. And then you get a 15 handicap in there.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, man, I got 3 kids. I play golf once every 2 weeks. And you're working on their swing. And then they want to go to short game, and that they don't really have educated hands yet. They've never hit a full swing shot with a shaft forward in their life.
Yeah.
And you go to the short game, and that a lot of that is layered into that as well. There is no shaft lane, so you have to then take in to where the skill is of that player. And where are you gonna go? Are you gonna go straight to maybe a little more ground first, or are you gonna go maybe no? Let's go into more shaft lean and more leading edge first. And I think that's an interesting conversation in itself too, when you start getting into players who are not as skilled and have their own deficiencies when it comes to uneducated hands, pivots that are not as efficient in the full swing, and all these things, as start to show up in the short game.
Yeah, and I think our job as instructors and to help people is, a player like that, I'd say, hey, what kind of terrain or turf do you play off of? Because if they play a super grainy golf course, or they're like, oh, I'm on real easy Zoysia, it's like, oh, okay, we can tailor, and I just play my course 2 to 3 times a week. I want to chip it better. Ground first is a very viable option. They have some issues. Oh, great. We can just switch clubs, use a ground first technique if they want to hit it higher or lower. Great. I like making things simple and easy for tour players and any player. They're like, oh, okay, do I have to learn to hit this shot? It's like, no, at the course you play, you would just kind of use a ground first technique with a pitching wedge or gap wedge. There's your low shot. Simple enough. If they were to play these really trickier terrains, and their goal is to play well, number one, and you'll see even tour players at places like the Zurich and some of these grainier places, they'll use hybrids, fairways, putting. So just letting them know it's a viable option. And then again, depending on their goals and what they want to do is, hey, Derek, I need to chip it clean. Well, at that point, we would help them with a better ball first technique that allows them to hit a clean chip when they need to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think like what kind of course, terrain do they play on? And then for me, like I'm always looking at from a development standpoint. Someone's come in, they've invested some money with me on a series of lessons over 4 or 5 months, and they want to look at it all. And so if I got a player who's has been this traditional open face, over the top, lots of throwaway, we go to the short game, like they're beautiful out of the bunker, right? Like they can just throw it up in the air, and then but they've never really experienced the use of the leading edge. And we know that shaft lean is so critical in the full swing. We know it has huge value in short game shots. And so I'll take the time then, okay, you know what? Let's go to the medium pitch. I'm going to start kind of getting them educated, more hands, leaning the shaft forward, feeling a little more of that hold shot as an opportunity to start there, feel shaft lean. And then hopefully that starts to bleed over to his full swing, where conversely, if someone's on the other side of the world, I might start softening that a little bit, on the shaft lean and letting that club head pass maybe a little bit more, and getting the club out of the ground and less leading edge. And so like there's both sides of that, where then the hope is, you can kind of, bring it to the middle, and a player can maybe one day get to the level of EVR and is able to hit all these shots. I want to ask you this real quick. This shot, dude, every time I watch EVR hit these shots, like that dude's not even looking at the ball.
Yeah, and you'll see some players that do that. And this is, I mean, we could talk about old adages. I do want to make a point on your point though.
Yeah.
Like we do see for a lot of amateurs, I rarely see. I think I've had two in about 40,000 lessons ever, maybe overlean a shaft, and they were both scratch golfers, and they just hit it too low.
Right.
Like I dare people to have that, but like you said, if someone has this really poor technique in their swing, and they wanted to learn to get more shaft, then I would totally agree with you. What a great opportunity to start to learn how to do that in a small chip, and then start to do that in a 20-yard pitch, and then start to do that in a 50-yard pitch, and start to build it up. Because as we both know, when someone's like, "Oh, I have massive scoop," well, let's just give me some shaft in my swing. It's like I wish it was truly that easy, but we can start to make it more familiar in a small motion, and we can work up for that. But as far as EBR, he's just one of my favorite humans on the planet. He works very hard. He's got a lot of style and swag, and he's very fun to watch play the sport. And his short game, he's done a lot of great work in the short game, and we want to continue to just with every player, just continue to improve and see talk about past events and past shots. That's why I like to be on site as much as I can, because I'm a big game tape guy. I do like practice, but I want to see what a player defaults to on course in certain situations, knowing their tendencies, so that we can better prep for tournament play and Sunday play.
See, he's got adequate shaft length, a decent amount, and he's hitting down on this, I would say, fairly steep, but there's no divot. And so when I look at this, right, you can see his lead shoulder and his spine kind of extending and standing up, a little bit of this kind of spiraling up kind of look. But I also can see, and I want you to talk about this, when you see a player take their left elbow and fold it real quick, and they keep that handle really close to the left pocket, right? Like they just cut it off right there. That left wrist goes to extension, that left elbow folds. It's almost like they're putting the butt of the club in their left pocket. Like, what's up there?
Yeah, I mean, if we just think of extremes, right? So it'd be potentially a softening option, or just a biomechanic option. If I do go deadlock straight, like I can make that movement. But a lot of it, in a lot of shots, when we teach a player, again, what does the club want to do? So if I am trying to release this thing out quick, and I know I don't need that handle to travel, it's almost like, well, then what would my elbow do in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I like having players think about the club, again, just as a tool, as a racket. And if I know I want this club to do this, well, then where would it fit my body? More than having to say, and again, it can work for some players to actually get them to do it, more than having to say, hey, like really pull your elbows or anything like that. I want to make sure I'm always explaining what we want the club to do in that scenario, and then have the body respond. And some of these things with EVRs, it's almost organic as well, more than a big intention.
Isn't that getting the club out of the ground too? That action?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I
mean, and that's what you'll see when you have yippers, and then they'll have. I mean, they're sticking that thing to Mother Earth, and they're pulling out. So
I laugh because I've been there. I've been there as a player.
To get that thing out of the ground at a little bit different levels there with EVR and a yipper for sure.
So let me throw this at you. Would you say that as you start, you're steeper, shafts forward, ball first, you want to get the club out of the ground. Now you're working on that. You're working on the arc trajectory, right? The arc control. And it would be easier for an amateur to just learn to kind of turn and stand up and don't go down. Don't get that excessive knee flex. Like, keep the legs up a little bit, keep the spine extended, let the left shoulder work up behind you, and really get that down, right? Shaft forward, leading edge, now stand it up a little bit, versus maybe asking too much, where a technique like EVR, where he's, I would imagine really ripping the cover off it right there.
Yeah.
And hitting down on it, and then saying, hey, I'm gonna go this left wrist, left elbow over really tight, because that's gonna get the club out of the ground too. And so different ways, but the application and what you're asking maybe the AM to do there's maybe some building blocks there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I think in a perfect world, and EVR's got great ball first and ground first technique. In a perfect world, ball first, a clean strike is kind of the foundation for golf. Now, again, if a player doesn't have time and, we can make a ground first shot work for them and it fits their goals and it fits their needs, totally great. But to really get good at off, and then again, it plays off any surface. If this ball's sitting down into the green and I need a clean chip, if I can acquire that in a tricky situation, it kind of can apply to any other situation. So I would say the foundation would be kind of a medium low ball first chip, and then we can start to add elevation from there. But for especially for players that struggle, 30 yards and in, a lot of their struggle is when they have that shot, they don't even know if they're going to hit it clean. So we have to develop a style or a technique that fits them where, okay, I can hit this ball cleanly if I need, and then we can start to add other pieces on top of that. So I do believe that a great ball first technique in an ideal world, again, everyone's got different goals and different courses they play, would be the foundation of short game, the same way that it's the foundation of golf. I would love to hit the ball cleanly, off the tee, off the fairway, and
Gosh, I just go back to my youth and I think about how far I drove my pelvis forward to get my weight left, but then I think about the side bend I had, and I think about the shaft forward. I think about, okay, I could hit a lot of shots, but I would definitely hit behind it once out of 8 or 9, and I just wasn't, okay, more on top, ball first, and then really work on the depth of the arc and getting it out of it. It's just, it's interesting going back. I always think about my own experiences. I'm sure you have. And then I think a lot about the journey of the amateur as well, and when to maybe go to one side or the other. All right, little quick video here, and then we're going to come back. I'm going to show you one more video, and then we'll get you out of here. If you're like most golfers, you blame yourself when you miss a short putt. So after you hold back the urge to throw your putter in the lake, don't do that. You try to fix your putting stroke. But how long does that last? 1 week, 1 round, 1 hole? There's a company called Lab Golf that doesn't think you should be blaming yourself. That's because all putters have this thing called torque, which means the putter face is trying to twist during the stroke, so you grip it like a snake. What Lab Golf did is they figured out how to make putters with no torque. They call it lie angle balance, and you have to feel it to believe it. I did. The Lab Golf putter, you don't have to use a funny putting grip to try to keep the face square. You can putt it any way you want because Lab Golf putter stays perfectly square by itself. It's effortless. To see how much easier putting can be, head over to labgolf.com. All right, how about this guy?
My brother.
Hideki Matsuyama. Look at that. Let's whoop.
So awesome to watch. He is he's statistically an elite short gamer. A few things that I made that post, and in all the practice rounds the last couple of years, I've never seen a player chip around the greens as much as I saw Hideki that day we played with him. A few unique things too is he hits so many like different styles of shots, and he's not afraid to mess around and hit bad shots as well. Like he'll hit some bad ones because he's like trying stuff. Really like his overall motion. He's one of the guys that generally stays more level. You'll see he kind of stays in posture, rotates, keeps lead wrist. We call that to some extent, right? Like a shaft hold skill. He's providing his engine, with keeping this somewhat maintained. So it has potential to keep similar-ish loft on the face. We're not kind of adding a 2-lever system.
Not as much ulnar with him, right?
Yeah. He's unique, right? If you look at his setup, the handle is not high.
Yeah.
And it's his way. And man, statistically,
it's interesting.
It's just, he's such a joy to watch play golf.
Would you consider it a little bit of an outlier in some ways?
Sure. Just if you look at the handle at setup compared to some, if you look at his style, I think it's unique to him. I don't know what his upbringing is or anything like that, but man, it is elite. When he won the Masters, his short game was nasty. So he is such a joy to watch with a wedge around the greens in bunkers. I like to watch him all the time, but yeah, I love his technique, and obviously more than anything, love his results.
Yeah, there's so many great nuggets here from this podcast, and like I've been writing notes and I usually every podcast, Derek, I I get 2 or 3 different rips, but
Cool.
I've already written down like 9 different rips. I'm like,
Oh,
man,
great.
like
Hopefully it's
there's
not
so
like,
many.
hey, this guy's
No,
a
it's great.
weirdo.
There's like it's such good perspective, and I think perspective is needed on the different styles, and I don't want to just lay it out as one side or the other, but in many ways, I think you put it clearly. Like even at the highest level, are you trying to hit the ball first or the ground first, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to your intent of what type of shot you're trying to hit. Are we trying to get on top of it with the ball?
Yeah.
Or are we trying to maybe not, soften that a little bit? And even at the highest level, really getting those components in line. And I think for me as a teacher and others that are listening, and certainly for students, when you're working on your short game, which direction do you need more of, or do you just need to kind of modify both sides of it? Maybe you have both already, but it really is it's a great discussion. I think the debate over the last 6 months, I think in the end, I think teachers will benefit from it, and I think amateurs will certainly benefit as well. And I just knew you'd do a great job, and you did, man. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Trav. Always good talking to you. I'm sure I'll see you out at Sawgrass, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, we'll see you out at TPC in a few weeks. Good luck to your hey, we tend to have good luck on players, like their coaches come on. I'm just saying, like I know Adam Schreiber doesn't work with Anthony Kim anymore, but he taught Anthony Kim how to play golf and the whole deal. And so that was pretty cool. And so, you know what? Congratulations. Pearson Cootie's going to win next week.
That wouldn't surprise me. Him or Nico or any of these
Nico.
guys. They're great. They're awesome players. It's very fun to work with these players. I really enjoy what I do. And yeah, I'm maybe overly invested. I really care how my Tucson people do. I really care how my professionals do. And it's a wild ride, and I absolutely love this sport and everything it's given me the opportunity to do.
All right, man. Thanks so much. That is at Golf Better Tucson. Follow him. Everyone does. If you're not, you're missing out. His real name is Derek Deminsky. You'll see him out there on the PGA Tour. If you're out watching, go say hi to him. He's a great guy. Derek, I've taken enough of your day off. Go enjoy your job. Thanks so much, man.
I mean, I could talk all day, but I understand you've got things to do too.
All right, man. All right. Take care, buddy.